Well, welcome to the Kristi Jones Show, where it's all about living your life to the fullest. I'm a life coach, speaker, and business owner in multifamily real estate, and I've had wild success in multifamily housing for over 25 years now. I am so passionate about helping others merge their success and lead a fulfilling life, and I bring it all together right here on this podcast. So join me and let's get started to live your life to the fullest. Hey, my friend, welcome back to the podcast. Welcome back to the Kristi Jones Show. Thanks for being here and hanging out once again. As you know, I drop a fresh new episode every single Thursday. And so here's what I'm going to dive into today. So I have several different topics that I'm wanting to cover in the coming weeks, but I decided today that since tomorrow is my 27th wedding anniversary. My husband and I will have been married 27 years tomorrow. I know, time flies. We've been laughing about it, going, 27? Are we at 27? How did that happen? The time has flown. It's craziness. So I've been sitting here thinking about that because that date is coming up tomorrow and we're making our plans of what we're going to do. And we're popping out of town for a little bit for the early part of next week to, just kind of celebrate. We usually try to do something. We don't always take a trip, but we're able to work that on our schedule this year. So we're going to do that. But so this is what I want to do. Since that's been on my mind, and I do think about this often, but I'm doing this podcast episode specifically if you have been divorced, or if you are single and you've been through a divorce. I want to talk to my people that have had a marriage not work. And you find yourself in that landscape of remarrying and having a do-over, getting another chance to build a life with someone. I want to talk to that person today because I want to give you some encouragement and I want to give you hope that life can be 100 times greater and better than you ever imagined. Because I know if that's you, because I've been divorced, my husband was divorced, we are each other's second marriage. So that's important to know. So I want to talk to the people that for whatever reason, and to me, the reason the first marriage did not work out, that is not relevant. We're not going to dig into all of that. I want to talk about looking forward in your life, and I want to give you some encouragement for that. Because I know what that can feel like when something really big in your life, something really important like a marriage, when it hasn't worked out, when life just hasn't worked out quite how you thought it would. And you get a gut punch. Or maybe you were like me and you had to make a tough decision. I chose the divorce based on the circumstances of what was going on in my life and in my marriage. Hard decision. If you've ever been there, if you've ever been faced with safety concerns, if you've ever been, faced with choices that another person is making that is taking you and your family down the slippery slope of destruction. And when they're on a self-destructive path, it's a very, very tough decision to make. But that happened to be my story. So I chose differently. But sometimes you could be the person that you felt like you got blindsided. For whatever reason, the divorce happened. So it doesn't really matter. I'm not so much concerned on what your past story is. I want to talk to the person that's sitting in that space of life right now, wondering if they're going to get another opportunity at this, that is feeling a little torn down because of their marriage not working out. So that's who this message is for today. Even if you are married, I feel like if you listen to this, you're going, and maybe, you're married and you're like, there's still things that we have to work on. Listen, every relationship has things that we can work on. So I still feel like if you listen to today's message, you're going to get so much value from it and have learned some things that you can apply into your existing marriage, into that relationship. So hang out with me as I just try to pour into you from my heart. It's all the things to live our life to the fullest. I share a lot of success tips. I talk a lot of business items on here as well. But today I'm going to talk about marriage. I'm going to talk about second marriages. So my husband and I, we are each other's second marriage. And yes, tomorrow we are celebrating 27 years of marriage. Was there a lot of talk back when all this started from people on the outer circumference that said we wouldn't last, said it wouldn't work, had all the opinions of this, that, and the other? Of course there was. Of course there was. But we also had people that were very supportive and believed and had the faith and saw what we had. So I guess my first thing I'm going to tell you is that you have to not pay attention to those people on that outer circumference of life that have those opinions that are maybe quietly chattering behind your back of, what they think about your relationship. Can you believe they're going to get married? Yada, yada, yada. Like you've got to learn how to turn that volume down and you've got to listen to what's inside. You have to listen to what you feel like you're guided, what God is putting in your heart. That's the very most important, is to stay true to that and silence the outer noise. So we are each other's second marriage. And it's interesting that, and we both had kids. Um, his kids they were teenagers, young teenagers when we got married. And my son was 4 by the time we got married. And then my husband in the state of Oklahoma, I think it was a year you had to be married before you could start the adoption process. And so then we've got that done about a year later. So we are a family of 5. We were a family of 5. They're all grown, have their own families now, but then it was a family of 5. And so the first thing I want to talk about is that if you are that person that is, you might label yourself like I'm a divorcee, I'm divorced. I want you to be really careful about the labels that you give yourself. Very careful on the labels that you give yourself. Often when now, because I'm so far, on the other side of that, of when I was newly divorced, it's really easy to like have all these negative connotations to the fact that something didn't work out. Maybe you're feeling like a failure. I know that's how I felt for sure. I felt like that no matter what I tried, that I just failed at it, that I couldn't figure out like the magic combination to make that relationship healthy, to make that relationship work. So I definitely myself, I carried, some sense of failure with that, that I just couldn't seem to fix it. And I want to caution you on that, to not allow those labels of that you weren't enough, that, often sometimes you want to label, that label of failure comes in. When you say you're a divorced person, that comes with a lot of negativity and heaviness, or at least that's how you're holding it. And I want to encourage you to shed those labels. Those are, first of all, it does no good if you're going to be beating yourself up. We need to learn. This is my second thing. We need to learn what you can from that first marriage. If it's water under the bridge, it's the spilt milk. You've heard the saying, you got to stop crying over the spilt milk. It's time to look at, what can I learn from that experience? What can I learn from that marriage? What can I learn from that relationship? And even regardless if you feel like, well, I didn't do anything to, it wasn't my problem, it was all that other person's problem. Honestly, this is not the time for that. This is time for it's really most important for you to like look inward. And we all, no matter what, we all have things that we can learn about ourselves. So take the time to learn what you can. Be open to what you can learn about yourself from that marriage. Watch the labels that you assign to yourself. Very those the labels are not number one, it's why do you even want to do that to yourself? Why do you want to, stamp yourself with this label? This is a temporary situation for you. This is just a time and space that you are not married. The first marriage, yes, okay, it ended in divorce, but you don't want to walk around describing yourself as a divorced person. I'm a divorcee. Sometimes I hear people say that and I'm like, is that your label? Is that who you are? No, that's something that happened, but that's not who you are. It's an event that happened, but it's not who you are. So be very cautious the labels that you give yourself. Learn from that first marriage. See what it is that you could learn about yourself. Even in my personal situation, when I look at that, and this is what I did. Again, I was young. I was what, 20, 25, and then so when I was like 26, then I turned, yeah, 26. All these things is where I'm evaluating and learning. And I had to really, even though there were choices that the other person made, and maybe you have found yourself in that same situation that were really against my value system, that were really destructive, honestly, for the other person. It was just self-destructive behavior over and over and over. Um, you can't fix people. You can't fix, that's where I learned, like, I am not in charge of fixing. I can be in charge of right here, myself, how I respond, what I do with that information, what I do moving forward. That's what I can do. But there were still, even in those type of scenarios, there are still things that you can learn that you could then apply into, which I learned from and then applied in my life moving forward. So oftentimes, and I remember seeing this a lot when my husband and I were newly married, I would say, I would have been, let's say when I was in my 30s, early 30s, and then I'm around and getting exposed to other people that are now in second marriages, and the term, which I don't know if I like the term or not. I just think it's the term that's been used for so long about the blended family. But watching others and them go through divorce and then combine families and all the things. I watched and observed many people fight, couples fight, and these would be the second marriages, over money, over their kids, over the time you spend with that kid, the time you spend with this kid, the money that you spend on this kid, that kid, whose kids, what I always thought that was crazy talk, because I have to say, I'm really fortunate. My husband and I, we never fought about those things. When I say fought, argued, had disagreements, money, kids, time, like we were both very supportive of one another with whatever you felt like you needed to do, whatever it is you wanted to do. If you wanted to, is something that you wanted to do or provide for the kids. If you wanted to spend your time in this way, I mean, we were just not nitpicky about it. We're just really supportive of one another on that. But I would watch over and over on different couples step into these second marriages, and they fought about money, and they fought about your kids, my kids, his kids, her kids. all of that. The time, how, the time of like you spend this time and I want your time and you're spending your time with your children. Like my husband and I have to say, we really put the kids were very important to us. We've never, either one, it didn't cross our minds for one of us to be like, well, you're spending all your time with the kids and you're not giving any time to me. That just wasn't our experience at all. So I caution you, I guess I would say that I learned from watching others that those are common things that second marriages tended to fight over and argue and have, when I say fight, again, I just mean like have that constant friction about. And thank God, we did not have those type of disagreements. That was not a friction area for us because we were a team. We approached things as a team. Neither of us really had that, I would say, in our first marriage. It was like two people, but not, we couldn't get, neither the people weren't on the same team. And so when we came together, we were pretty laser focused. And we're both type A people, I would say. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but we are both very ambitious and very goal oriented and very focused on our kids and focused, we were just on the same page on a lot of things. And so I feel very grateful that those were not areas that we had a lot of friction in. So I share that on it's it just always seemed like such wasted energy to be when I would witness the turmoil and listening to other friends that were in second marriages constantly bicker and go on about money and kids and the time. So I'm not here to tell you what's right or wrong on the money, the kids, and the time. I know what my value system is. I can tell you that, like I said, that wasn't an area of contention with my husband and I. Um, we didn't, we saw things very similar. Even when we didn't see things similar, I would say that I always, it didn't make me angry. I respected the fact that it was something that meant a lot to him and something that he wanted to do. And so I supported him in that. I will say that if you're moving forward in a second marriage, I would just encourage you to, I guess, really get to know yourself when it comes to the common thing that I saw so many second marriages argue about was the money and the kids and the time. So you might want to do a little deep dive with yourself on those areas. Now, I did not know that before we got married. I learned that through watching other couples and noticing. And my husband and I would talk. I'm like, do you notice? Like, we don't have those friction points. I wonder why that is. And that would start, conversation with us. Like, their marriage is like, I mean, they would come to us like, our marriage is struggling because of this, this, and this, or they're going into counseling because of one of those three reasons that I just talked about. And so we were like, gosh, I mean, we're not up against those particular battles. So since I saw that show up over and over and over in so many second marriages, I just want to toss that out there, like a little like heads up. You might want to evaluate yourself on those things. I think that it's natural for parents to want to spend time with their kids. And honestly, the way that I looked at when going into the second marriage is we each had our children before we had each other. And now we are a team and we have to prioritize one another. But it's a very intricate balance because I was a parent before I was your spouse and vice versa. Same for him. So I think just a lot of open dialogue and open conversation needs to happen so that both people are on the same page. That leads into the fourth thing I was going to talk about was being a team. I think that this is really applicable. It doesn't matter if this is your first marriage, if this is your second marriage, or beyond, that it's so important to be a team. I don't think that it's as enjoyable of a marriage if two people are like on two different teams. I'm doing this and the other person's over here doing this, and we never intersect. I talk a lot about building a life that you truly desire. And um, when you're in a marriage and for us, we had children, we wanted children. Our family was like, that was the focal point. We wanted to give our kids a great life. And it's hard to do that if you're not a team. And that doesn't mean that you're going to always agree on every single thing. It's okay to not see things the same way and to accept that. I never was the type of person that felt like you have to 100% agree with what I'm saying. And he's also that way, where he's like, you don't have to 100% agree with this. But you have to be a team. You have to have this understanding. Like I said, this doesn't matter. This is, I feel, so important for any relationship and any marriage, but to be working towards common goals, to be building a life that you both truly desire is so much easier. It's so much more enjoyable if you're doing it as a team. And a lot of times, like on any team, the players have different strengths and weaknesses. So you build upon those. So being a team is really one of the focal points of making it successful and making it work. Being a team, even because, even when, for 27 years, and I think if you talk to anybody that has been married, I mean, obviously there's people that have been married way longer than that, 40 years, 50 years, 60 years. And I think one of the things that we can learn from those that have gone before us and that are like ahead of us in that realm is that it's not always easy. This isn't supposed to be this like little blissful road that we go down. There are amazing times, and then there are times that are really hard. But when you're on a team, you stick together and you figure it out together. So think of it, I look at it like with sports, you have seasons where you have winning seasons and everything's going great. And I mean, you're feeling on top of the world, the team's doing great. And who doesn't love that, right? Then might have that same team goes through some seasons that they're losing seasons. And it's tough stuff. And, things happen, injuries happen, players, all the things, right? But they're still a team and they just rebuild and then they go at it again. When you and your spouse are looking at things as if you're a team, it doesn't matter if it's one of the highs or if it's one of the lows, you're in it together. And, we laugh sometimes, like there's days, in 27 years, there are days, both of us, he's like, we were talking about this not too long ago about there's days that you're like, probably like, I love him, but I just don't like him today. Okay. And vice versa. Same with, I'm sure I said, well, yeah, I know you've said that about me too. That's life. But at the end of the day, it's about being a team. Are you committed to the team? You may not like everything. There might be we all know that, right? There's days that I drive myself crazy. Like I'm like, I get so irritated with myself. So of course I'm going to feel that way about my husband. Like, and he's going to feel that way about me. That's just life. But when you're a team, you go through those seasons that are victorious, you go through those seasons that are hard, that are dark, that it might be illnesses, it might be financial hardship, it might be going through the thick of it with maybe one of your kids. I mean, there are all kinds of things that can try to come against you, but focus on the fact that you're a team and you will get through it. I want to say also to that person, again, I'm speaking mostly to the person that feels maybe discouraged that, they've been in a marriage, now they're divorced, and just really just discouraged. Just wondering, is it meant for me? Am I going to, have another marriage? Is it going to work? I hear so many horrible things about, second marriages. I heard those same things too. I want to say I read, and this is obviously a long time ago, but I had read that in first marriages, it had a back then, and this would be in the late 90s, 50% divorce rate on first marriages. And second marriages it was almost a 70% divorce rate. I was like, oh my gosh. I was thinking in my head, well, how come it goes up? Because if you've been through it before, then you've learned some things and then you apply what you will learn. So how could it get worse? Like I remember thinking that exact thing, like, how can it get worse? Because usually when you go through something, you learn what to do, what not to do, how to, you learn things about yourself, just all the things, and then you apply that. So how could it get worse? Um, and I remember thinking that like that's like a horrible statistic. First of all, don't believe everything you read. And there are so many second marriages that have been phenomenal, that have been everything that that person had hoped for. So don't believe everything you read. I don't even remember where I read that, but it was like all the statistics back then. I mean, if I would have believed that, then look what I would have missed out on. I remember praying to God and really just asking God to drop in my heart, because I was, um, you know, I think when you have a mistake in your life, whatever what you think is a mistake, because I don't believe that there are any mistakes at all. But when you first, like when you're newly divorced, you feel like, God, you feel like you're like damaged goods almost. Like you try to put all these labels. So that's why I started out the whole conversation with do not try to label yourself. Don't do that to yourself. But so you're there and all these things are going through your head. And so I remember praying so much to God. I pray to God all the time, but my prayer then was, please guide me, teach me, like help me see what it is I need to see. Guide me and and bring the right person into my life. And he definitely did that. So here we are 27 years later, which we were laughing. I'm like, 27 years? Do you realize that you've been with me in my 20s, my 30s, my 40s, and now my 50s? Like you've done 4 freaking decades of my life. He's going to be 69 soon. So I've done what he was 40s, 50s. So I've done 3 of his decades. He's done 4 of my decades. And we were laughing about that. I was like, oh my gosh. When you look at it that way, I'm like, I went, you're crazy. He said, I know, I am. But anyway, so I just really wanted to give you, if that's you, and you're like, man, I don't know, man, I feel so washed up. I feel like it's not meant for me. I just want to give you that bit of encouragement that do not let something that just didn't work out the way you thought, don't let that set the tone for the rest of your life. For if there's another amazing person waiting to meet you, they're waiting for that you to walk in the door. Don't give up hope on that. A lot of times I see people get stuck in this divorce realm of they have to know why. Why did it happen? Why did that happen? They feel like it's wasted time. I don't believe that at all. Everything happens for a reason. I actually am super grateful for my first marriage. And it honestly, it was a blessing. It was an absolute blessing in my life. And so many good things came from that. And and it was the time of my life I got to become a mother. And I also learned so much about myself in that time frame too. So I have zero regrets. I had a broken heart. I did have a broken heart for a while, but we can all heal our broken hearts. You know, God really, He really helped me in a lot of ways understand things differently. And I didn't have to know the why. And so I feel like if I were to give you another bit of encouragement, is quit searching for the why. Why did this happen? Why did it turn out this way? You know, nothing is ever wasted. Your time was not wasted. Even though you're maybe discouraged, feeling a little brokenhearted, wondering if you're ever gonna, find another person that gets you, I want to encourage you that that is there for you, that it is meant for you. And we don't have to know the why. We can move forward in our life and we don't have to have all the answers because sometimes we feel like we need to know everything. And God's like, just trust me. Trust me. When He closes a door, He will open another door. Quit questioning the closed door. Quit demanding the why on the closed door. Trust. Trust and believe. Know that nothing's wasted at all. So if this is you and you're feeling a bit discouraged, you're a little bummed out with the current status of your love life, of your situation, that you've gone through a divorce, you feel like you just got this cloud over you because you're a divorced person. I want to encourage you. I want you to envision yourself, drop the labels, envision yourself in a different way, that you are amazing, that you are going to find and meet. Heck, you might have already met the person. Maybe your eyes just haven't opened up in the way they need to open to the person that might be just right in front of you. But I wanted to share with you those things as we get ready to celebrate 27 years of marriage. I wanted to share a few of those things that have been on my mind of what has been important as we both stepped into our second marriage. And that was at a time when some people were just talking a whole lot of smack about it. And there wasn't a whole lot of positivity around second marriages. It was kind of doom and gloom. Maybe it's still like that. I'm not sure. But I didn't believe it. So you get to choose what you're going to believe on that too. And I'm choosing to believe that you've got an amazing future ahead of you and that the exact right person is just waiting to meet you and that you can have the marriage that you desire. And there's really nothing holding you back from that. And anything, relationship or any marriage that you've already had, that only makes you better. That doesn't take away from you. So do not look at it as a negative. It is a positive. So I hope this has been encouraging to you. And if this is like, you're like, this doesn't, I kind of will take some of the marriage tips, but I haven't been divorced. And for that, I'm so happy for you. And that's amazing. I believe in marriage. I want, I want those first marriages to work. I really do. But I wanted to talk to the person because that was my experience. That was my husband's experience. So I'm qualified to talk to that person that maybe the first time didn't work out. I'm very qualified to talk to that person. and I want to encourage you. And if that's not you, I want you to send this to a friend that might be going through that needs that bit of encouragement to know that it's not over. I'm not damaged goods. This is not the end. That you can have an amazing life. You can have an amazing marriage. Just stay open. Don't question the closed doors. Don't demand to know why God closed the door. Move forward with hope. Move forward knowing that your best days are right in front of you. All right. I love you, my friends. Send this to somebody that needs to hear this today. Okay. All right. So let's go make it a good rest of the week. I will see you same time, same place, right here. As always, rate and review the show and go down into the show notes. Drop me an email. Let me know what you thought about this episode. All right. I will talk to you soon. Take care. I want to thank you for tuning in today to the podcast, and I hope you've enjoyed the conversation and all the info that's been shared today. And I hope you've come away with a few ideas on how to make the most out of it for your life. If you loved this episode, be sure to share it with your friends and family. And also make sure you subscribe to the podcast and tap that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Also, it would mean the absolute world to me if you would leave a podcast review. So until next time, my friend, keep flourishing and thriving and live your life to the